This is a Flying Cow production.
Well, hello and welcome back to Discussions here on the Flying Cow. I, of course, am the Flying Cow himself, Clay Johnson, and here with me today, as always, is my co-host, the fairest Amanda Van Heil. Amanda, how are you today?
I'm doing great, minus having a broken foot, but I'm doing great.
I will say, and I'm gonna tell you why in just a little bit, but that's actually fitting for the movie we're talking about today. I know that makes no sense, but I'll explain it
I mean,
later.
I'm thinking of parts at the end of the movie that kind of, but
But yeah, so Amanda and I are here back again, guestless, but that's okay. We like talking about these movies with each other as well. So we are today talking about the film from 1955, Lady and the Tramp. It was, it was the 15th Disney animated feature. And it was directed by Clyde Geronimi, Wilford Jackson, and Hamilton Lusk. And of course, it features the voices of Barbara Luddy, Larry Roberts, Bill Thompson, Verna Felton, Peggy Lee, and many, many more. Let's go ahead and let's start, just like we do most of these, by talking about, where we first encountered the film, what our childhood memories of it are. So let's start with you, Amanda. Like, do you remember the first time you watched this film?
I don't know if I remember the actual first time just because it was one that I watched on repeat when I was really little.
Sure.
But I would watch the movie and then I'd also watch the sing-along that had like all the songs from the movie. Watch that on repeat also. But the part that like in the movie, I would always just start sobbing when they were in the pound and singing that sad song and you see like the dog crying. And
There's nothing more pitiful than a crying dog.
no, there's really not. It
Yeah.
like killed me. And
Mhm.
so like then it would get into he's a tramp and I would start laughing at the dog that would go boom boom, boom wolf. And
Sure.
because he was my favorite.
Yeah.
And then I would be okay. But I could never, and I even now I cannot handle the pound scene. And I feel like even more so now that I'm a cat mom, like
Sure.
it's that like, oh no, my babies.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, that kind of stuff, when you own animals, that kind of stuff is much harder
And it
to.
hits way differently. I mean, I've had pets all my life, but it hits way differently when you're like the mom to the cat rather
Yeah.
than like growing up with the cat. I
Yeah,
had no
exactly.
idea how different it was going to be. And oh
No.
wow.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had a dog before Teddy when I was, a teenager. But I was, it was a much different setup. I had my parents there, he was my dog. I took care of him and everything, but it feels so much different
Mhm.
with Teddy than it did with my first dog Buster, you know. Um yeah, just night and day. Like I feel like his parent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas I
That's how
just
it is
felt
with my
like I
son.
took care of Buster. Loved him, of course. He was my dog. But I don't know that I ever actually felt like his parent.
Yeah. Like
Like I do with Teddy. But yeah,
honestly, my cat was acted more like the parent than I did because this cat took care of me.
sure.
To like you would not believe this cat took care of me. And so now
Yeah.
I'm the caretaker and I'm like, oh, this is what I put Zoe through.
Right. Oh, growing up, my sister had a cat that we there were four kittens, and we pretty much only ended up with two of them. They were both gray. One of them was this hateful thing that would sit on the porch, and as you walked past, every once in a while, you never knew when it was coming, but every once in a while you'd walk past and it would just reach out and go and just slap you with its claws out. And it was just like, ugh. But you never knew when it was going to happen.
Yeah.
It was just, yeah. But then the other one was this big gray cat that literally was my sister's baby doll. Like, this cat wore dresses. This cat sat in car seats. This cat, basically, my sister just did whatever, and he just went along for the ride. And I mean, he was a sweet cat, but he constantly had a look in his eyes that said, "One day I'm going to kill you." You know? But yeah, you know, personal animal stories aside, you know, I do want to share where I first encountered this film. And this is what's going to link into Your Broken Foot, because this, I don't know that I can safely say that this was the first Disney animated film that I've seen, that I saw, because I do think that I saw others in theaters before this, but I think it was among the first, at least that I can remember, renting and taking home. I was 3 years old, and I had to be picked up early from daycare because we had to go to the doctor so that I could have a wart removed from the heel of my foot.
Ow.
Yeah. I can't tell you what the doctor's office was like. Can't tell you even which foot it was anymore. But I distinctly remember getting it done and then going home, sitting in my living room, eating ice cream and watching Lady and the Tramp.
You know, if you're gonna have a wart removed, that's a great way to spend the rest of the day.
Right. But I will say it's one of those indelible memories. And I mean, I wouldn't even say that it's necessarily my earliest memory. It's probably one of my earliest intact memories. Like, I definitely have earlier fragments and things like that. But do you ever have a memory that, like, is so vivid that it's like every time you experience that thing again, it's almost like you're back in that same place?
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I watch this movie, I'm sitting on my couch eating ice cream with my foot bandaged, sitting up, watching this movie.
Living the life.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm 3 years old again. But yeah, so you know, I obviously have very fond memories of it. And like I said, you know, when you have animals, anything with animals in it, you know, takes on a new life. And I will say, I watched this afternoon with my dog. Teddy actually enjoys watching anything with animals in it.
Oh, that's so cute.
Whether they're real or animated. He'll, you know, he definitely wasn't a huge fan of the scenes where Lady was whimpering, but other than that, you know, he seemed pretty good. But yeah, we just had a good time watching the movie this afternoon. But yeah, so let's just kind of get into this. I will say that the film is based on a magazine story from Cosmopolitan, from an issue of Cosmopolitan magazine from 1945, featured a story called Happy Dan the Cynical Dog by Ward Green. I mean, I think that the inspiration for that, though, was pretty loose, because they also, a lot of it was based on a story artist from Disney, basically was inspired by his English Springer Spaniel, Lady, same name. So a lot of things were taken from an artist's real life and then mixed with this story. I think a lot more of the Tramp stuff was taken from the story, and obviously the artist's own dog was mixed in there. But yeah, I mean, looks like they started looking at the possibilities for this as early as the late 30s and early 40s. So this took a while to get actually made, but then we ended up with the film that we have. And I will say the film kind of opens up with some really we're seeing like a little town. I believe I read somewhere that the town that this is set in was based on Disney's hometown in Missouri. I'm not 100% on that, but I do think that was at least the idea, that this was kind of the setting. It does kind of seem, obviously it's in the early 1900s. I believe here it says 1909. So, like I said, early 1900s. Small, looks like definitely a small Midwestern town.
Yeah, I was like trying to place where it was. I was like, well, it has kind of that Music Man look to it. So somewhere in the Midwest.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Iowa is right around,
like right there.
Yeah, Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, something like that sounds about right. But we're introduced to this couple, Jim Deere and Darling. And first of all, I just want to say, Jim Deere and Darling, if you ever wanted to convey to an audience, these characters aren't important, give them names like Jim Deere and Darling. Because they're just so two-dimensional. It really kind of tells you these characters are really just here to serve the plot. They're not here to have lives of their own. They're really just
Someone's got to have a puppy.
Right, exactly. They're only important in terms of how they fit into Lady's life. I mean, at least Jim Deere gets a first name. Yeah. Poor Darling.
Darling is just Darling.
It's just, and I'm like, really? You couldn't give the woman a name? Like, Emily Darling, or something like that. But no, just Darling. Yeah, because
Darling.
No, because women are useless. Apparently, they don't deserve names.
Yeah, just say Darling, and we'll all just be like, yes.
Right? Yeah.
Shall I make you a sandwich now?
Oh. Yes. Oh, geez. All right. But yes, so Jim Deere obviously gives Darling the gift of a puppy. And I will say, I have seen this trope in a lot of movies. And I'm wondering, does this actually happen? Do people gift animals, especially dogs, to people in boxes on Christmas?
That's what I want to know.
Especially puppies, because I'm just like,
it's not going to sit still.
No, there's no way. And also, I mean, number one, there better be holes in that box.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I'm coming after you for a whole nother reason. But again, as you say, it's a puppy. It's not going to be quiet.
Nope.
I don't see the point of, give it, and like I said, I see it mostly in movies and things like that, but I do see it in movies where people in live action movies pull dogs out of boxes. And I'm like, number one, why'd you put the dog in a box? Number two, nothing happened, that you couldn't tell that was a dog in a box.
And also, I
You
hope you
know?
discussed with the person that you were giving them an animal that's going to be a
Right.
commitment for possibly the next 20 years.
Yeah, like I said, you are basically now making that person a parent of a
Yeah.
sort. So it's like, nobody is opening boxes and finding babies. At least I hope not.
I hope not. I mean, it does happen.
I mean, yeah, that's true. That's true. But I think there are actual laws against things like that.
I gave you a baby for Christmas.
Merry Christmas! Where'd this baby come from? Take the baby back! But it's your Christmas present! I don't want it! Take it back! Jeez. That's... Oh. You always said you wanted to be a mom. Not like this. Oh, but yeah. So, they give her lady, and I will say, maybe I missed it, but I don't think there's really much of a time lapse between when she gets him or when she gets lady, and then they immediately decide to go to bed and put the dog to bed.
Yeah, you don't do that. First of all, the
It's
first
a-
night with a pet, you don't sleep.
No. But it's a puppy.
Yeah.
It's not, it's been in a box for hours, sitting there quietly. You only get a few hours of that from an animal.
Mm-hmm.
Once those
Especially
are
a
gone,
puppy.
especially puppies, it's playtime at least for a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
So, don't know what the plan is, but yeah, there was no way that dog was going to just sit quietly and stay there. Plus, it's a new puppy that's just imprinted on new humans, and now you separate yourself from them immediately.
No.
I will say,
don't
I
do
am,
that.
as I'm talking, I'm realizing that I do have a thesis statement in this. Not always, but I don't think that Jim Deere and Darling are very good pet parents. They have their moments,
Yeah.
but they show a lot of really bad decision making when it comes to taking care of their dog.
Now I kind of wonder how they would take care of their kid.
I know. I'm just like,
Like, if they just send the kid to their room, like, would they bring the baby home?
I will say part of it comes from the way they react when they first, not when they have the baby, but just when they first find out that they're going to have a baby. All of a sudden, they're pushing the dog. I'm like, you still don't have the baby yet. The dog still has needs. There is literally a scene where, lady brings Darling the leash, and she's knitting, and she's like, "No walk today, lady." And I'm just like,
no,
okay.
you don't just not have a walk.
No, because number one, it's not just a fun playtime. That is exercise. It is also bathroom time. That is a very important thing if you don't want poop all over your house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I get that she has a dog door and all that kind of good stuff too, but animals need that physical interaction. They need
Isn't Lady
that.
a Cocker Spaniel?
Yes.
And those are freaking hyper as crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you gotta have a ton of energy to deal with a Cocker Spaniel.
Yeah. So I really don't think, and it's when she's relating this stuff, the first thing that she says is, Jim Deere refers to her as that dog, and I'm just like, okay, I'm sorry,
You're the one that bought that dog.
Right. Well, and like, I get that I've never had a child, but I can't imagine ever referring to Teddy as that dog. That just sounds so dismissive of this creature that just a couple scenes before they seemed to be perfectly content with. They actually said the line. Let's see if I can find it. They actually said the line. Let's see. Oh, where? Oh, there it is. You know, with Lady and everything, life seems quite complete. Which, number one, I don't think that's a thing people say.
No.
But the fact that they said that, and then like 2 scenes later, he's referring to Lady, the animal that makes their lives quite complete, as
Just
that dog. Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, maybe these people don't need a dog. Maybe these people don't need a baby.
No,
Maybe these people need some psychiatric counseling. Because
that kid.
Yeah, suddenly they find out they're about to have a baby, and then they just want to forget that they have a dog. It's a little
Hopefully they only have one kid, because if they had a second kid, I mean, the first kid's just forgotten about.
Right. Yeah, I'm just like, apparently these are like one thing at a time people. Although, once they have the baby, that's when apparently everything seems fine. And I'm like, honestly, it seems more believable that would be when she feels neglected, because they're having to take care of a baby.
Human in the house.
Right. That would be understandable, but that is when they bring her back in, when suddenly the responsibility has increased. It's almost as if they're like, oh, let's bring Lady in now. She can watch the baby.
Turn her into Nana.
Yes,
that's what happened.
Exactly. She's in Nana training. That's what this is. Oh, I mean, you can't argue that she'd be better than Aunt Sarah.
Oh gosh.
But we've been skipping back around. Let's go back just a little bit. They do eventually, obviously, Lady does end up sleeping with them. And I mean, I will say, I wrote down, because when he finally gives in, he's just like, okay, but it's only for tonight. And I wrote down, I'm like, sure. Do you even believe that? Really? Because I don't.
Mm-mm.
And I'm pretty sure Lady doesn't.
No,
and I doubt Darling does.
This is my bed.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think later on, I will say I've watched both this version and the live action version, and I'm conflating them a little bit.
Yeah.
But in one of those versions, I think Lady refers to it as our bed.
That's in the live action.
I think it's in the live action, yeah.
Because I just watched it too. So.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, either version, that's really the truth.
Yeah.
It's really their bed,
Yep.
I mean, just like, I mean, I know there are pet owners that don't let their dog sleep with them. I personally couldn't do that.
Mm-mm.
I mean, that's one of the big reasons that I have a dog is, it's that companionship.
All three of our cats sleep with us.
Yeah, when I'm out of town and Teddy can't go with me, I miss him when I sleep. Yeah. So I just, I get the idea, I guess, but at the same time, I'm just like, I don't know. I think you're kind of missing out if you, don't let the dog sleep with you. But that's just me. But yeah, then we see kind of the life, and I love. I will say, number one, I think the animation in this is absolutely beautiful, and I love how they kind of captured the spirit of the dog. I love that they actually have scenes with Lady where we're seeing her as a dog, not just with her, talking with her friends and everything, but like actual relatable real life dog things.
Yeah.
We see her waking them up. We see, her, trying to help and actually screwing it up, but they love it anyway.
Because
Kind of
it's so
things.
cute.
I say all this while currently my dog is under my seat licking my thigh. So just these wonderful things, these wonderful weird things that dogs do. I love that we get to see Lady do that. Honestly, one of my favorites is when she buries the bone, digs up a flower, and then puts all the dirt back, and then is like, oh, the flower's broken, and then just puts it back up upside down. I'm like, I mean, obviously Teddy wouldn't necessarily do that, but I will say that he does this thing when he uses the bathroom, when he poops. Most animals cover their poop. For some reason, he's got something, kind of disconnected in that part of his brain, and he'll poop and then he'll turn and then kick. So basically he's kicking all this stuff up in the completely wrong direction from where he just defecated.
He tries.
Yeah, I mean, he knows he's supposed to do that. I don't think he understands why he's doing it.
He's just like, I know I'm supposed to cover something up right now.
Yeah. But he's nowhere near the thing he actually needs to cover up.
Yeah.
So, just, a dog doing, trying to fix something, but doing it completely wrong. I get that.
Yeah. At least it makes an effort, unlike one of my cats who does not cover up his poop ever.
Oh, lovely.
It's awful.
Yeah, I bet. But yeah, so then we are introduced at this point. Well, obviously a very important thing happens where Lady gets not only her collar but her license, and Darlene is like, oh, why don't you go show Jock and Trusty? At this point, we have not met the characters of Jock and Trusty. Obviously, if you've seen the movie, you know who these characters are. But if you are a 3-year-old child watching it for the first time, you don't know who these characters are yet.
Trusty.
Yeah. But yeah, so then we're introduced to Jock and Trusty. Let's see. Jock in this is played by Bill Thompson. Well used voice artist by Disney. Did a lot of stuff. He was famously one of the earlier voices of Droopy, but he also did the voices of such characters as the White Rabbit, and many more Disney characters. And then Trusty is voiced by Bill Baucom. And Bill Baucom doesn't have a whole lot of other credits, but I will say I love his voice as Trusty. Oh, Miss Lady Ma'am. It's great. I love this, Southern kind of, because he's a bloodhound.
And he's a gentleman. He is a pure gentleman.
Exactly. I think that is the epitome of who this character is supposed to be. He is a Southern gentleman, and he, you can tell he's lived a life. He's, experienced a lot of stuff. But he's just the sweetest, nicest, character. And I will say, and I think honestly it comes from our discussion with the Aristocats. But as I was watching this, I was thinking, I feel like Jock, is a confirmed bachelor. He might be asexual. He seems really just interested in his bones.
Yeah.
Trusty fucks.
Oh, Trusty's been around.
Yeah, Trusty has been around. I mean, I think he's a little past his prime now.
Yeah.
But in his day, Trusty fucked.
Yeah.
He did.
You wouldn't dare talk about it, though, in front of Miss Lady.
No, of course not. That would be ungentlemanly like.
Yeah.
But, he's done some stuff.
Oh, yeah. Jacques would just be like, I don't know what to do here.
Yeah. I mean, he's walking around wearing a little, vest and a, it's, the little tartan and everything like that. And he's, hiding his bones from his friends. If you can't trust your friends with the location of your bones, who can you trust?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jock's only concerned with one type of bone.
Yeah.
Where's Trusty? He'll take them all.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I really do enjoy the relationship that Lady has with these two characters. They're just kind of it's just kind of a fun little dynamic that they have, like their little backyard gang. They're not getting up to a lot of mischief or anything, but
just have fun.
Yeah, they're just backyard pals. But I believe it's around this time that we are introduced to the character of Tramp. Tramp, voiced by Larry Roberts, who, let's see, it looks like he's actually best known for playing Tramp, but he, also did a lot of minor uncredited roles. So yeah, I will say I haven't mentioned yet, but Lady is played by Barbara Luddy, who
that was Wendy, right?
No.
Oh.
Wendy was Catherine, the same voice of
Alice.
Of Alice, yeah.
Okay.
Catherine Beaumont is her name.
That's right.
Barbara Luddy has voiced several other Disney characters.
Because I know I recognize the voice.
Yes, Kanga. She was also the voice of let's see, Merryweather in Sleeping Beauty. And she often plays very motherly characters, which honestly, when I realized that she was the voice of Lady, if you listen, you can. It's very much a very similar voice, but there's something so different to it. Like there's something very kind of matronly in a lot of those other characters. Like I said, she's playing mothers, but here it doesn't sound like the cast, a voice performer that usually plays mothers. She sounds right for the voice of Lady. There's a youth, there is an exuberance in her voice that really works for this character. And I like I said, if you listen to it side by side, you can get it. But even though it's a very similar voice, it also astounds me how different it is. So I find this a very interesting performance of hers. But yeah, like I said, we are introduced at this point to the character of Tramp. And I will say we're introduced to him like sleeping under like a some sort of like runoff or something like that. And like literally, it's weird because there were parts at which, I was taking notes, so I wasn't always staring at the screen. And he goes to stretch, and then I went to take a note, and immediately I hear the sound of, and I was just like, is he urinating? And I looked up and I was like, oh no, it's running water from the like little runoff that he's sleeping under. But it literally started right after he stretched.
Yeah.
Which sometimes that's the series of events with
Yep.
dogs. And so I was just like, did they really just animate this dog urinating? I don't remember this part of the movie. But no, it was just, like I said, if you're not paying attention, sometimes you might hear some things that sound more interesting than they actually are. But yeah, so he stretches, takes care of his business, and then is walking around. We see, Tramp very early on, established as this free spirit, and um just this kind of, lone wolf character that he's meant to be. But, in one of the first scenes that he has, especially the first one where he speaks, he encounters two dogs that have been caught by the dog catcher. I know the character of Peg. I don't know, does the bulldog have a name in this version?
I don't know if he has a name or not.
I think I know here it is. Okay. It is known as Bull. Because I know that's what they called him in the live action version. But
right.
So he encounters Bull and Peg. And I gotta say, I love the character of Peg.
I do too. She's always
just
loved her.
I mean, because she just, once again, here's a character fucks.
Oh, yes, she does.
And, she just is enjoying her life. She has her own set of rules. But, at the same time has a heart of gold kind of thing,
Yep.
just a very very much they pitched this dog as, a singer in a nightclub. And she reads as that in every way possible.
Yep.
And it so totally works for me.
And it is brilliant that they can make a dog be a nightclub singer, and it totally, you're like, yeah.
And you get it.
Even you don't even question it. You're like,
even before the scene where she literally sings under a spotlight.
Yeah.
You get that vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Peg was played by,
Peggy Lee, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Peggy Lee, who I believe also voiced Darling. Yes. So she was voiced both Peg and Darling, Peggy Lee. Peggy Lee, also a pretty well-known, wait, let's see. I mean, apparently it says she was a jazz singer. I thought she also did a lot of other voice acting.
I did too, because I've seen the name.
Yeah, I mean, it says she has done some stuff. It just wasn't one of the first things listed. But yeah. But yeah, like I said, great performances as Peg. And unfortunately, Darling, there's not a whole lot to the character. But
Peg is much more interesting of a character.
Much more interesting. And yeah, honestly, I feel like she has a much more interesting life than Darling does too.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, so obviously Tramp encounters these two and sets them free, and excuse me, we're introduced to the idea that he kind of has his regular haunts that he goes to with these restaurants and things like that. We're very early on introduced to, I think we just see Joe in the first scene, right?
In the first,
the first time that he goes to Tony's restaurant.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, we just see Joe, gives him a bone, that kind of thing. But yeah, so excuse me. Yeah, sorry, I'm reading my notes real quick. But this is around the time that Lady is expressing her concerns, and I will say, as I was listening to Lady recount this, number one, when she's done, Jock and Trusty know exactly what's going on, and they're like, it's fine, they're having a baby, whatever. They seem very dismissive of the various neglect that they are expressing for this dog before they even have a baby, and I'm just like, no, I'm with Lady. This is weird.
Mm-hmm.
This is a weird way for them to react before the baby is even there, and they're treating it like it is normal.
Yeah.
And then Tramp comes in, and obviously he seems to have his own kind of experience with this. It's never fully fleshed out in this movie, but you can tell he's speaking from some sort of experience, and he kind of lays out to her kind of possible worst case scenario of you might be experiencing quite a bit of neglect, and maybe even more when the baby comes.
Yep.
Again, like I said, for some reason Jim Deere and Darling do it backwards because they think they can turn this dog into their babysitter. But but apparently only for quick quick outings. They can't do overnights.
Yeah.
That's a little
That's still a
much
bit
to
much.
ask for from a dog.
Yeah, she can't really do diapers or anything like that.
No. But she can do everything else, right? Yeah. But yeah. So like I said, Lady's worried, but she's sure that she's kind of assured of her position in the family. They disbelieve Tramp, and he's just like, all right, don't say I didn't warn you, kind of thing. And like I said, Darling, I will say, before she does have the baby, we see like their showers, and the majority of humans in this world we only see from like the waist down. And that's also the case for the most part with Jim Deere and Darling. I will say that there is one scene where we see Jim Deere's face. It's the scene where Darling has a craving late at night, and he goes to, go get her, what is it, watermelon, I think? And then she asks for chop suey. I don't think
I don't even
Chinese
think he knows
restaurant's
what
going to be
chop suey
open
is.
in the night at night, but okay. I honestly don't. I mean, this is 1909. I don't know where Jim Deere thinks he's going to get any of these things. It's not like anything's going to be open.
At least with a watermelon, you could go to the backyard because there might be
or
growing.
the neighbor's garden and leave him a note or something like that.
Yep.
Although it's snowing, so probably not.
Okay, no, then it is not even watermelon season.
No. Mm-mm. But yeah, so like I said, they show the baby shower, and it's really weird because we're kind of hearing these conversations between the men and the women, and they're very gendered, very the epitome of what's the word, the stereotypes of men and women. There's even a one of the guys is like, oh, don't worry, the doctor hasn't lost a father yet, that kind of, it's like, okay, that's weird, but then actually have the baby, and then the very first scene where with the baby, they Lady comes in and they show her the baby and everything's fine. They're like, you're going to be taking care of this, you're good with that, right?
I did not sign up for this.
It's a non-paying gig. We'll fit you for your bonnet later.
But you know, if you want to live in this house, you're gonna have to babysit the kid.
That's right. That's right. That's why we got the dog. You know, we knew we wanted to get pregnant. They were like, well, let's get a dog first. Make
'Cause we're
sure
gonna need
she's at
someone to
least
take
6
care of the
months
baby.
before we even get pregnant. You know, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It just reminds me of the John Mulaney joke. It's like paying a horse to watch your dogs. These are all of the emergency numbers, and you're a horse.
Yep. Like, what can I do? Just dial 911 a little faster?
Yes. But yeah, so well, like I said, you know, we have all of that weird interaction, but now Jim Deere and Darling are going out of town. Lady's not equipped for overnights, so they got to bring in Aunt Sarah. And I gotta say, this is, you know, I guess point number one was, well, no, point number one was the fact that he gave, you know, Lady to Darling in a box. Yeah, not great. Strike number two was immediate, trying to make the dog go to sleep right after getting it.
You don't do that.
Strike number three is acting like zombies before your baby even arrives and neglecting your dog while you can still easily take care of it. Strike number four, making your dog your babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
Strike number five, and I honestly have to say this is the most egregious one, is that they bring in Aunt Sarah. And here's the thing. I get if all you had was the baby, get Aunt Sarah to watch.
Yeah.
But
you know,
right, you know, she's not just watching after the baby, she's watching after the dog.
And
do we really not know that Aunt Sarah doesn't like dogs?
Yeah.
Did we really not talk to Aunt Sarah?
Like, were they just absolutely desperate for somebody to watch their baby?
Yeah, I'm just like, you know, could they really just not find someone that could watch both? You know, at the very least, I'm having a strong conversation with Aunt Sarah. It's like, yes, you're taking care of my baby, but you're also taking care of my dog. My dog is a good dog. Do not mistreat my dog. You know, but they get not only a woman that hates dogs, but has two horrible cats.
And who brings like their cats to go watch somebody's dog and baby?
Well, and also the fact that apparently on top of all of this, they also own a bird and a fish.
Oh, that's right.
And they're completely just uncovered with these cats coming in. There was no conversation here had. I'm thinking that they did not communicate that Aunt Sarah didn't communicate that the cats were coming. They didn't communicate that they had these other animals that needed to be taken care of. This was just, hey, we need to go out of town. Can you come here? Cool. Bye.
Yeah.
These are not people who need to be pet owners.
No. They really don't need to be parents either. I mean, if they're just like, it's not like it's been that long since they had the baby.
And I look, I will say there are points in between this, you know, the couple of scenes that we see with them where they are happy with Lady, where it seems actually like a really nice situation.
Mm-hmm.
But they're just not flexible people that are able to, you know, think decisively in a way when things are different that's not. You're not a good any type of parent.
No.
Pet parent, human parent, anything. You need to be able to think on your feet and say these are the things that need to be done.
And somehow I don't think feeding the bird or the fish was on the list.
No. I mean, I honestly think that the bird and the fish are furniture to them.
Probably.
Because I didn't know that they existed until the scene where they both almost get eaten.
But like my question with Aunt Sarah is, didn't she have the cats in like a picnic basket sort of thing with like
Yes.
how could they breathe in that?
Well,
Didn't it
I
have
mean,
oil?
it's wicker, so those
Oh,
things
okay.
are
That's right.
pretty aerated, and I
Still,
mean,
no
it's
cat is gonna
also.
sit still in that.
I mean, not for long. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's mainly just for carrying.
Yeah, but see,
Um,
carrying the cats, it's not gonna happen. As soon as you pick up the basket, they're both gonna jump out.
yeah, I mean, I will say I have known cats that would sit in a basket, so
They'll
cat.
sit in a basket, but they don't always agree to you moving the basket.
I mean, I will say, obviously this was like the precursor to pet carriers.
Yeah.
So this is kind of, the equivalent of that for Aunt Sarah. But, like I said, then we immediately get, and this is, of course, the one scene that requires Disney now to have the disclaimer on, this film.
Yeah.
Because they have a very stereotypical song with these two Siamese cats with very, the stereotypical, Asian representation.
Yeah.
And it's not great, especially when they're portraying these animals as, mischievous and sly and, all of these other things, when you're only two technically characters of any different ethnicity and they're the bad guys. That's not great. I mean, I get, that, it is one of the songs that sticks the most in my head. It's a well-written song.
It's a very catchy song.
But I can't argue that it's not problematic. I can't, it's yeah, there's a reason that disclaimer is there. But yeah, so, we have that, and they completely destroy the house in ways that would be impossible for a dog to do. And then Aunt Sarah comes down, they play the victim, and she completely believes that not only did she destroy the house, but then she attacked that lady, not only destroyed the house, but in ways that she could not possibly have done, but also then attacked her cats, to the point that she now believes that this animal needs to be muzzled. Which, I don't like the idea of, a dog being muzzled.
Mm-mm.
It's not a comfortable situation. She takes the dog in, they muzzle her, she runs away, understandably.
I would run away
she
too
did
if I was
nothing
muzzled.
wrong, and she's being receiving this contraption on her head, which prohibits her from normal movement. And then that's when she runs into Tramp again. Obviously we get the scene at the zoo, which is a lot of fun. I really enjoy the beaver character. And I will say the beaver in this film always reminds me of Gopher.
Okay, I was gonna say that too.
From Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
But Gopher would have happened after this.
So I guess this was influence of Gopher, because Gopher wasn't in the Winnie the Pooh books. He was like an original Disney
I mean,
character.
he specifically says, "I'm not in the book."
Yeah.
Which is, has double meaning,
Right.
because at the time that phrase was used to say, "I'm not in the phone book," but he's literally referring to also the fact that he's not in the book.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so this character actually, I believe, I know the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh came out in 77, but I know some of the shorts came out earlier than that, but I think it was in the 60s. Was the earliest one. Let me just see, because I don't want to claim that this is the truth and then, be wrong. Let's see. Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh came out in 77. Let's see. The particular short, though, was, Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree.
Oh,
So yeah, that was 66. So yeah, it came out, a little more than 10 years before that short. So yeah, the beaver does predate Gopher, but you can. The beaver in this obviously has a much, a bit of a deeper voice than Gopher, but you can definitely see the influences. The whistling when he talks, all of that stuff is definitely carried over. But yeah, fun little character, and they talk him into doing it by saying that the muzzle will help him, move his logs, and they're not really concerned with whether or not it will help him move his logs. They just want the thing off, but it does actually do the job.
Mm-hmm.
It causes the beaver to take quite a tumble, but it's still, he's still, happy with the work that's done. So yeah. And the voice of the beaver was Stan Freberg. And yes, he was. It says that he was definitely the inspiration for the character of Gopher. So yeah. Oh yeah. Fun character. But yeah, let's see. So we get that scene. Then they're just kind of Lady and Tramp, or I will say, I don't like, the dogs refer to him as Tramp. Several, obviously Tony and all the other restaurant owners have different names for him, but I don't think he ever introduces himself with a name.
No, I don't think he does.
No, I like I said, I believe his friends refer to him as Tramp, but I don't think he ever owns that name.
No.
I will say I am curious what Jim, Dear, and Darling name him. Yes, Lady and the Tramp 2 is out there. I'm sure in that, if they refer to him as anything, they probably do refer to him as Tramp. But I honestly don't accept that as canon.
I can't see Jim, Dear, and Darling naming anybody Tramp just because I can't see them saying it.
No, because it's really kind of an odd. There are a couple different connotations to Tramp. One is another name for an unhoused person. Which I think is more kind of where they're going with it. The other one is kind of a derogatory name for a woman.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure is not the reference there. Although Tramp definitely fucks.
Yeah.
That there's no question there. Yeah.
Peg does sing a song about it later.
Yeah, I was about to say Peg pretty much proudly states that she's one of his conquests. No
He's a tramp
problem
and
with
he's
that.
a good one.
Yes,
That's my
exactly. But yeah. So I mean, I think probably though it would have been disappointing really to hear, him with yet another name.
Yeah.
So I get why they didn't, name him at the end because believing that Jim Deere and Darling would name him Tramp makes no sense. But if they're just like, oh hey Scruffy or something like that, it would feel weird too.
I guess they could call him Butch since that's what Tony called him.
Yeah, but I mean, unless they're talking to Tony.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I mean, it sounds like all of the other restaurant owners that are like right next to each other all have different names for him. But yeah, and so we see the dogs, enjoying themselves, and then we get the iconic scene of Lady and the Tramp going to Tony's, the Italian restaurant. First of all, I have to say, I love Joe and Tony.
I do too.
They are just
about this scene.
as a double act. They are just amazing. The bit where Tony is taking the order from Tramp and he's like, Tramp, Butch wants 2 specials, and he's like, Tony, dogs can't talk, and he's like, he's talking to me. Yeah. And the way he says
my
it,
parents
you
would
believe it.
quote that all the time. They loved that he's talking to me.
Yeah. I'm looking for the voice of Joe. Tony is voiced by George Gibbet. I'm not seeing the voice of Joe. Let me see here. I'm sure I can find it real quick. Okay. Oh, Bill Thompson, of course. Yeah. If you don't know who voiced something, it was probably Bill Thompson. But yeah. So we get this fun little scene with them, and then of course we get the iconic scene of the 2 dogs eating spaghetti while Tony and Joe play Bella Notte. And it's a wonderful, iconic scene and a fun song on this lovely Bella Notte. Just a fun little scene. And of course, we see the iconic, scene of, them eating the spaghetti, eating the same strand.
So cute.
They kiss, even though that's not actually how dogs kiss.
He noses over the meatball.
Yes, it's all very cute, very sweet, all this kind of stuff. And then they have a nice little night looking at the stars on top of the hill, all of that kind of good stuff. And then wouldn't you know it, the next morning Tramp fucks it up. Because they go to, chase chickens and all of this kind of stuff. And, first of all, they get chased away by this farmer. And I will say, when I was a kid, whenever, we were thinking that, because we had different animals and things like that. But whenever my dad thought that something was after like chickens or goats or whatever, he wouldn't go out with a shotgun. He'd go out with a BB gun to just chase the things away. This farmer brings out a full-on shotgun to chase, and he is aiming at, he's not shooting it in the air. He's blowing holes in his fences, which the fences are made out of chicken wire. That wouldn't happen. It wouldn't create a giant hole in chicken wire if you shot it with a shotgun because it's full of holes, and shotgun is is spread. You might break a couple of tines, but you're not going to create a giant hole.
Yeah.
But anyway, my point is that this farmer is using a shotgun against these two dogs. Just needed to scare them away, but whatever.
Yeah. Like just use the BB gun. If they're really attacking something, shoot it in the butt.
Right. Exactly. But then of course, the dog catcher comes. Tramp thinks that Lady is behind him. He runs, and Lady gets caught, but he doesn't know until it's too late. And then we get, as you mentioned, the very sad scene at the dog pound. I will say, well, yeah, the build up to the pound scene is very sad. The whole thing with Nutsy being taken to be put to, and I'm just like, and we see this dog, I mean, just in silhouette. We don't actually see the dog, thankfully. But just in silhouette, looks like a very happy little dog.
I know. That kills me every single time.
Walked away to, be put to sleep. And I'm just like, oh, that's messed up. But we also, during the dog pound scene, get this wonderful song from Peg. Because
you need it after that terrible dog scene.
Yeah. And like I said, I love the way that they frame her with the spotlight, and the way that is done with the animation, the way that they just kind of draw her like glowing during that. It's just so well done. And that song is just so much. I mean, that was probably Peggy Lee's favorite part.
Absolutely.
Of doing this whole movie was getting to sing that song. Had to be. Because it's just such a fun, he's a tramp, but I love him. Yeah, it's just
they've had some history.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's canon.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, then of course, Lady, because she has a license, gets picked up. I will say, I mean, I do find it a little unbelievable that Aunt Sarah wouldn't just say, "Oh, we'll come pick her up later."
Yeah.
It sounds
like,
seems really unbelievable. Yeah, that she would come get Lady. I mean, I get that, there's probably like city ordinances or whatever, but it seems like Aunt Sarah would just be like, well, how long can you keep her?
Right.
My
guess is she would get fined or something, and that's the only reason she wouldn't pick the dog up.
Honestly, though, I think, Lady would have been better off, at the pound rather than in Aunt Sarah's care for a moment longer. But yeah, and I just wrote down at this point, because the next time we see Lady, she is chained up outside to her doghouse. And I just wrote down, Aunt Sarah sucks. Because she does. I mean, she just is 100% colored by the fact that she likes cats, she doesn't like dogs, and has seen everything through that lens, refuses to see the actual facts of what is going on. And
she makes cat people, she gives us all a bad name.
Yeah, she really does.
Cat people like dogs too.
Yeah, and even if you don't have to be that mean to them. There's no reason for that. Absolutely,
she was just an awful aunt growing up too, or that she was the one. She would have been the one to have like all the expensive candy, but it'd be like, no, can't touch it because like this isn't for children candy.
I was about to say, chocolate. I do not envy this child growing up with Aunt Sarah as an aunt. She is that child, or that kid is going to have no fun. Yeah. If he ever has to visit Aunt Sarah's house. Ugh. Because it's going to be all old lady stuff. And yeah, like you said, a bunch of stuff he's not allowed to touch. Miserable place, miserable woman. But yeah, so like I said, she's chained up. She sees the rat. She's unable to chase it off. I you know Tramp, I think they had a conversation before this. I can't. You know, I watched it today, but like I said, I watched the live action version, and I'm getting them confused.
Yeah.
Do they kind of make up in that conversation, or is it still kind of do they still kind of walk away? No, I think she actually. Now that I think about it, I think she tells him off pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I don't think.
I think I almost wrote that down.
Yeah, I feel like they don't really make up until the
Yeah.
rat incident's over.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Okay. So yeah. So yeah. So she does, before she sees the rat, she does have a scene with Trusty and Jock where they're trying to, cheer her up. Doesn't work. She's feeling sorry for herself, and honestly, it's earned. Not only is she being treated horribly by Aunt Sarah, but she feels like she was, abandoned by, this dog that she thought she had a connection with.
Yep.
And he comes and tries to apologize. And like I said, she actually has some very good points and shuts him down very well.
And I mean, Peg told her.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so that's when she sees the rat, and Tramp hears her. She conveys to him what's going on. Because she's chained to the doghouse, she can't go and take care of it. So Tramp has to go in and take care of the rat. And I will say, the animation on this rat, it is so sinister. And look, I get that in a lot of animated films, like rats, unless they're like the main protagonist, are often like drawn very but like this rat is like evil incarnate as a rat. Like it is like big, glowing yellow eyes, long, sharp teeth, just looks like a tiny little monster, this rat. And, so when it crawls in the baby's room, we can only assume that it has sinister intentions.
Like it is in there to bite the baby.
Exactly.
To bite the baby.
Yes. And I mean, rats, especially, wild rats in cities have been known to carry disease. So that is a concern. So, of course, Tramp goes in there to take care of the rat. Big commotion. Aunt Sarah comes in, jumps to the wrong conclusion. Lady eventually is actually has gotten off and has joined Tramp. She, locks Lady in the cellar and immediately calls the pound to have Tramp taken away. The dog catcher arrives, but just as the dog catcher is leaving, that's when Jim Deere and Darling come back. And I love how quickly everything is fixed the moment Jim Deere and Darling come back, because the moment that they come back, they're like, why is our dog in the set? No, because she gets out. Or
she would have just gotten out.
She would have just gotten out, because she tells Trusty and Jock to go. But the moment they see Lady, they know that Lady wants to show them something.
Yeah.
They go up, they see the rat, they immediately know that Tramp has been exonerated. And like I said, everything is only thing that could have happened. Yeah. All of a sudden, these horrible pet owners are the heroes of the day. Suddenly, them coming back fixes everything.
Yep.
Even though they've been part of the problem most of the movie. But like I said, they do. Jock and Trusty hear. Oh, that's right, because she doesn't tell Jock and Trusty. They overhear from Jim Deere and Darling. They overhear that situation, but they go off to help Tramp. And I wrote down their attempt to like rescue Tramp and like stop the dog catcher. Like it's so exciting to watch. Because there's some tension there because I mean, the last thing that Aunt Sarah said is, I know you have rules, but I suggest that you destroy that animal immediately. And the dog catcher sounds like he's on board because they think that he attacked a baby. Not mentioning the fact that when Aunt Sarah came in the room, they were literally just standing over the baby, not doing anything, just kind of sitting there. If they were actively attacking the baby, they would have been actively attacking the baby when you walked in.
And there would have been hair like on the baby from the dog. Like
something. But yeah, so but like I said, Trusty and Jock go to do this thing. And, I wrote down and I was like, this seems very, very suspenseful, very heroic, but it also seems a little ridiculous. Just because it's like, as much as I kind of like the way it's done, like in an action way, the way that Tramp is saved is really kind of unbelievable. That he's stopped. I mean, I guess, Jim Deere and Darling go, to catch up with the dog catcher in their vehicle as well. But it just, Jock and Trusty being part of it, while it's thematically exciting, is also kind of silly.
Yeah. Just something about a Scotty dog being involved in anything thematically exciting.
Right. They do, of course, cause, because this is the early 1900s. Jim Deere and Darling have a car, but the dog catcher, it's still a carriage.
Still like the horse and carriage.
Right. And Jock and Trusty are able to basically not only stop, but overturn the dog catcher's cart. And,
scare the horse.
Right. And so then, even though he's just been involved in an overturned cart accident, Tramp is fine. But then we get the reveal that Trusty has been hurt, and we're made to believe he might be dead.
Yeah.
And I will say, I remember as a kid being so sad. And like, when I look at it now, I'm like, why do we have to believe that Trusty might be dead right now?
Yeah, like it gets intense.
I mean, story-wise, it's actually done very well. But for kids, it's really, because we
already saw Nutsy go off to die.
Well, and we have interrupted a possible death of Tramp by introducing a new death of Trusty. And it's just like, why did you solve one problem with another? Why couldn't we just be happy from this point on? Then, of course, not long after, we see, a scene at Christmas some months later. It has to be some months later because not only is Tramp living there, but Lady has already been pregnant and had the puppies. I mean, obviously the gestation of dogs is not very long. I think it's like 3 months.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it's not very long. But that means that during this time, Tramp moved in, Lady went into heat, got pregnant, and had puppies, and they're at least a few weeks old.
Yeah. Because their eyes are open and they're walking on their own.
Exactly.
So that's about a month and a half.
Yeah. So, some time has passed.
Yes.
yes. We have to show that time has passed. But we do then see Jock coming up, and of course they delay. Oh, and there's Trusty.
Trusty lives.
Oh, now, even though we've been seeing all these happy images, we're still on the edge of our seats, wondering whether or not Trusty is alive. They've got to delay it as long as they can.
And isn't his arm still like bandaged?
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I'm like,
that is. I mean,
for all of this has happened in Lady and Tramp's life, but he's still got a bandaged leg.
I mean, the cats at the shelter, when they have amputations, they heal up faster than that.
Yeah, because this is, I mean, we're talking, at least, 5 months?
My foot better not take 5 months to get not broken.
Yeah, I mean, so, yeah, it's just, I mean, I get obviously visually why they did it.
Yeah.
To show that he's okay, but he didn't walk away without a scratch kind of thing. It does match. But, if you think about it for any amount of time, the fact that he's been healing while Lady and Tramp have moved in and started a family.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we might want to make sure that Trusty's okay. Are these not fresh injuries? Is something going on here?
Did something recent, and
did we trigger maybe his owner's Munchausen's? Is something going on here that we need to be checking in about?
Maybe Jock did it.
But yeah, I will say I do like the fact that we, I think it's so cute. Jock and Trusty come in, and Jim Deere and Darling immediately treat them like regular human visitors. They're like, Jock, Trusty, nice to see you. We'll put down some refreshments. It's just like,
can I get you a beer?
It's like, can I get you a bowl of water? Would you like some kibble? How about a chew toy? Are you good? Yeah. But then we get the nice little bit with Trusty being able to fill the role that he always should have, as kind of a grandfatherly figure.
Yeah.
And he's like, wants to share stories of Old Reliable, which, of course, Jock and I will say the Lady never answered. It was always Jock that was like, yes, you've told us quite a few times. Lady never answered. Was Lady ever allowed to hear the stories?
I don't think she ever heard the story, because I think Jock always just was like, stop. Yeah.
Because by the time we get to these kids, they're like, no, we don't know these stories. And he's like, well, I plumb forgot what Old Reliable used to say, because my asshole of a friend Jock never let me tell the story anymore.
Make Jock tell the story.
Yeah. It's like, you remember him, Jock. Jog my memory. I'm going to go think of a lady friend in the corner. Oh, but yeah. All right. But yeah, I mean, is there anything else about the film that we want to say before we move on?
I have some questions.
Okay. All right.
Do we think Jim Deere and Darling walked in on Lady and the Tramp when they were fucking? Or do you think they did it outside in front of Jock and Trusty?
Like,
where would they have gone to do this?
Well, I mean, they definitely have. I mean, Lady's got her own backyard.
They went to the but Jock and Trusty can see the backyard.
They come over whenever they. I mean, let's be honest. Like we said, Jock's not interested.
That's true.
Trusty might be peering over the fence just to remind him of his good old days, you know. But
I remember when I was young and spry like Tramp. I got the ladies like Tramp too.
yeah. Oh, I think that Trusty got more ladies than
Oh,
even
he
Tramp.
absolutely got way more than Tramp.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
the girls would get too annoyed with Tramp too quickly and they'd just slap him and leave.
I was about to say, Trusty has a stability to him that
Yeah.
Tramp just never had. That's attractive to a lady. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Well, I mean, any other things that we wonder about the sex lives of these animals?
Oh yeah, I think that's it.
That's it. All right. All right. So yeah. So let us then go ahead and get into rating this film. Of course, we do this on the tier system. We have 4 different tiers to choose from. We, of course, have the top tier. Sorry, that is not the top tier. We have the there it is. These are just out of order somehow. I don't know how that happened. But yes, we have the top tier. This is, of course, the best of the best, the cream of the crop. These are our absolute favorite Disney movies. These are, of course, our own ratings. Doesn't have to jive with anyone else, but that is top tier. Then we have, of course, the second tier, tier 2. These are good, solid Disney movies that we really enjoy. They might be a little bit outside of our favorites, but they're just, good, dependable Disney films that are, solid classics. Then you've got the third tier, which is, in a word, They're not great. They're not bad. They're just kind of there. You might enjoy watching it once in a while, but it's definitely not your go-to, and it's just kind of it's okay. Then you have the fourth tier, which is not even a tier. It is the vault. These are the films that we wish Disney would throw away, lock back in the vault, and let's just forget about those, shall we? So Amanda.
Yes.
When it comes to this film, Lady and the Tramp, where would you put this film?
I put it in tier 2, towards the top of tier 2.
Okay. Yeah.
It is a good one. It is one of the ones I would watch on repeat, but it's no Little Mermaid.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. I will say this is a solid tier 2 for me as well. Like I said, I have, strong childhood memories from it. And when I watch it, I'm always like, this is a fun movie. Like I said, when I was watching it, I kept just being amazed by some of the artwork and, just the work that they were doing with the dogs and how believable they were. And, but at the same time, it's if somebody asked me my favorite Disney movies, it probably would not be one that popped into my head. I think it's a solid film, and I definitely do believe that it is a classic. But yeah, definitely sits at tier 2 for me as well. All right. Well, then with that, we want to go ahead and let people know how they can get into contact with us. So, of course, you can reach out to us on Twitter and Instagram at The Flying Cow Pod. You can also email me at theflyingcowpod@gmail.com. Do not forget to check out all of our other podcasts that we have going on, as well as the Patreon, patreon.com/The Flying Cow, where you can find all sorts of exclusive things. Make sure to check all of that out. Amanda, let us know what you got going on.
You can find me on Twitter at Amanda Van Heil. You can also find me on Twitch at Panda Princessa, where I usually play Zelda games, but I've got a whole bunch of other stuff I got to play too. And then you can also find me on Instagram. It is Panda Princessa Streams.
All right, all right. Well, again, we will be back at some point reviewing another Disney film. Hopefully with a guest, but if not, Amanda and I are just as good.
We'll chill.
Yeah, yeah. But until that time, move.
Moo.